Look on the bright side. This must be the bright side. You're missed. Right, okay. A Tale of Two Cities. T-O-O. How dark is the human mind, how pale in thought, how diminished in potential. Cringing in hovels of doubt and self-pity, as unsure of itself as the basest of beasts in the wildest wood, surrendering its brilliance to the quagmire of economic uncertainty, a pallid gray-green mass hidden in the shadow of the calcified skull, awash in the red blackness of human blood, waging dementia with the cacophony of its negative emotions, taking its place after death in the dusty record of the morass of could-have-beens. A Tale of Two Cities. Well, Tale of Two City. Let's see if I can, this is a little article I wrote a long time ago after the collapse of the World Trade Center. Let's begin with the inevitable Dickens quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, quote unquote. But that was from his classic Tale of Two Cities. This, however, is a tale of one city that I call Two City. T-O-O. In the 60s, it was labeled Megalopolis. It is stationed on a piece of the planet in the east coast of the lower 40 contiguous states of the USA, but it has more in common with Paris or London. Two cities made famous by the story by Charles Dickens about the French Revolution, in which he, well, at least the one in the, like 18th century. I don't know if there's another one coming up. Yeah, des grèves, hein? Okay. About the French Revolution, in which he depicts those graphic events, which we now know were also aggravated by a failure of agriculture due to extremes in weather phenomena, among other things, smacking of intrigue and subterfuge, involving the practically simultaneous emergence of Napoleon, Bolivar, and others like George Washington. Put them on the $1 bill. A dollar as a doll is. Okay. It must be Dolly. Okay, anyway. Ever since Nimrod, there have been elements whose preoccupation is to rule the world as they always had to have. Or sorry, not as. And they always had to have towers. They gotta have a tower. No. Okay, the best and the worst of times quotation may well apply here as well, but I present this not for literary stimulation, but rather to submit careful observations that I gathered at great difficulty and personal privation, which were not easily accrued, but rather were painstakingly gleaned over the years, among other things, after and during the arduous 50,000-mile journey, an arduous 50,000-mile journey in the United States alone, part of my 20 or more than 200,000-mile travels. Must be closed parentheses there, Paul. Okay. The U.S. voyage I financed by the selling of my homemade underground newspaper as I traveled. I started with $11 I used to print the first edition, warning about a coming depression, which thankfully turned out later to be merely a triple dip recession. I don't know, it's like maybe I was predicting the one after this one. Okay, anyhow, with a backpack full of 100 copies, I stuck out my thumb to hitchhike south from Washington, D.C., went around the USA and returned to Washington, D.C. a month later after having hitched across the northern part of the country in 3.5 days. Not bad, 3.5 days is my record for hitchhiking across the United States. And I did it in a green suit. Yeah. Never a dull moment, and this all comes together. With enough money saved from my enterprise to purchase a month-long Greyhound bus pass, which the hobos call riding the dog. So dog, man, Greyhound, man, okay. I traveled at night, sleeping on the bus, using a piece of black foam rubber I found in a trash can at the Honolulu airport to immobilize my head as I slept in the bus seats, and was thus fastened by and this was fastened by an expensive necktie I found around a fire hydrant in Mobile. Yeah, Mobile, Alabama. Okay, I wore silver dark glasses so that those looking at me couldn't tell if my eyes were closed or not. It's handy to know if you have to sleep sitting up, huh? Not to digress, the Megalopolis I referred to in the first paragraph is a blend of several cities into one huge, massive one, which stretches from Virginia to Massachusetts along the East Coast. So our two city is also made up of many cities. And here I concentrate on two of them, having also, by the way, lived in both. One city has the largest office building in the world, and the other arguably the largest business establishment in the world. Both were attacked on September the 11th, 9/11, 2001 by hijacked airliners. I'm writing, of course, of Arlington, Virginia and New York, New York. The largest office building is the Pentagon, where I worked as a Spec 5 Signal Corps information specialist, couriering documents back and forth between there and Building T7, near what was then called Friendship Airport. In those days, that housed my outfit, the Army Material Command, back in the 60s. In New York, after I hitched across the country my first time, that took 6 days. In 1970, I got a job driving a cab, and I could remember the ominous feeling I had as I watched the framework of the World Trade Center go up. I drove nights and would get uptown and work my way to Chinatown and Canal Street. There was one restaurant there where I would eat, which had great food at a very low price. I ate with chopsticks and sipped the free unsweetened green tea from a large Duralex glass, while white-bearded Chinese elders in the back played dominoes around huge, dimly lit round tables. Most nights I never made it when business was good, but when it was not so good, and I got all the way downtown without picking up a fare, then a good meal would kind of make up for it. So, I don't know, I'm going to probably have to continue this on another video, because they only let me have about 3 minutes before cutting me off, but I'm going to keep reading through. Coming towards Lower Manhattan especially, and from a distance, you could see the naked light bulbs gleaming miles away in the framework as it went up, each day higher and higher. The tiny yellow pinpoints twinkled in the atmosphere between like stars you never saw in the city. I used to look up, but usually all you could see were the visible planets, whose reflected light was much stronger than stars and could penetrate the smog and the millions of bright lights of the city that never sleeps. I knew